These are two poems from Portugal. I'm not from Portugal. The first is about Richard Zenith, the translator of many Portuguese poets and of Fernando Pessoa, and the biographer of Fernando Pessoa. And the second poem is about Ana Paula Travaes, who's a historian and a poet and quite an important figure within Angola. Richard. I just read an interview with you in the newspaper. Your translation of João Cabral de Melo Neto is ready, finally. And I was remembering how we met outside the Café A Brasileira, where the skinny statue of Pessoa on a chair, resting his leg across his knee, is of an Indian bodhisattva in almost full lotus. And you'd recognized me as I leant against the wall by the folded copy of The Guardian pinched under my arm. Sitting out in the front under the umbrellas, we discussed the master and how he never wrote of Africa. My childhood paralleled his, I said. You, as his archivist, told me his first book was to be named Exile. Only in a recently deciphered poem, you said, is there an allusion to Durban, its humid, milky dawn. Later, before we entered the Opera House on Largo de São Carlos, you pointed out his birthplace, the fourth floor apartment. Translators aren't ghostwriters, Richard. They're spirit guides. That telepathy between any persona and the real. Still later that night, after all the restaurants had shut, even in Bairro Alto, and we had roamed the lanes under lamps that were torches of a stalled but endless procession, and we had found our beer and pregos in the last cafe open, you and another friend had spoken, not in Portuguese, another Latinate tongue, and the man's eyes had been jelly moist because he loved her and she didn't want him. Ana Paula. We were walking along the Rua do Arco de Triassal, just below Coimbra University, on our way to the botanical garden, deep in conversation about Leopold Senghor and the vanity of power. Poor fellow, we agreed. Few love his poems now. We read our poems under a Moreton Bay fig tree, and neither of us could have ever imagined that. That weekend, all we discussed were the subtleties of Portuguese cuisine, tripas ao molho de Porto, tata de amendoa, and the vast empire of bacalhau. You were like an Angolan sister to me, you who are an historian and poet. In Lisbon too, we spoke about food and at the table. I remember my coconut curry with the white rice and your chicken sputtering over a brazier out in the bright Alfama street. You were saying that when in Durban, strolling along the foreshore, you and a friend were overheard by a white man whose job was weaving telephone wire into baskets, nimbly, like a proper African. And he had said, "I can understand your language. I learnt when I was fighting you people in the war." You made no comment, no words of disabuse, were gentle in your recollecting, just as you had been in asking directions to the restaurant. Menina, desculpa. Thank you.